When you embarked on this transition, did you expect there to be some bumps along the way, especially early in the season?
Always. It's football. There's always things that are complicated, especially when you have a transition. You know, lots of new pieces, new coaching staff, new way you go about business. I think that's not surprising to me at all.
Justin?
What do you think playing a full game did for Rhino, and how do you think that experience can help him out for this game?
Well, I hope it's a good. I hope it was a good thing. I think he's a young player that's learning on the fly. I think he's going to be a great player for us as he continues to grow and improve. He's incredibly conscientious. It's very, very important to him, and I'm excited to see his process. And when you're going against a defensive front that's as good and as talented as Utah's is, I think it's a great opportunity for him, and it's a great opportunity for him to continue on his journey.
David?
Coach, what do you kind of see as the differences between Isaac Wilson and Cam Rising?
The decade of college football experience, I think, that's like we always talk about that as coaches, that there's no substitute for live bullets. And, Cam has had so many opportunities in big games and big moments and big arenas and that part of it. But Wilson looks like a really good player, and he obviously handled that situation great last weekend, and that's as tough of an environment as you're going to have to play in at Oklahoma State. So, I think, whoever we end up playing against, we're going to be playing against a really good player.
And their defensive end, I believe it's finisher number 7. What makes them so disruptive down there?
It's amazing having coached against Utah over the years. It seems like they've always got a bunch of guys in the defensive front that, give you fits. And, he's just the next in a long line of just high quality players. I think the best thing they do defensively is that they just play hard. And I give Coach Whittingham and that staff just, Morgan, just a ton of respect for that, because they play their tails off. And then they combine that with talented players. And that's why they've had such effective defense for so long.
In terms of going back to Wilson and Cam Rising, how much does their offense change, if at all, from what you've seen through film in terms of which quarterback's in?
I think you probably see a little bit more quarterback run with the young guy, but so much of who they are is predicated on playing their style of football, which is run the football and utilize your tight ends and find a way to get the ball to receivers at the right time. They've always been, Andy Ludwig is a fantastic football coach. He's been doing it forever. So they've got a hell of a football team.
And then with Noah Fafita, obviously one of the leaders of this football team, he takes a lot of the weight of how the team's going. He always comes in the press conference and says, I could have done better at this, I could have done better at that. How do you relieve some of that pressure off a quarterback like Noah in a game against Utah?
Well, it's kind of one of the things that makes him special also, right? I think that's, a sign of any good leadership on your football team is that they don't point the finger. They're looking at themselves. Like, how do I improve, how the last game went or how the last play went? That's a lot of times when we're on the sideline. He's like, I missed that, or that could have been better. So I think that part of it is incredibly refreshing from a young player, because Noah's still a young player, right? And I think, so many young people now, or just people in general, are just quick to blame someone else for something going wrong. But it's awesome that he's one of those people that he knows the importance of the position he plays. He knows the importance of his role as the quarterback and the leader of our football team, and he's willing to shoulder that.
Justin?
Is there an update on Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt?
There's not.
What is holding up in the process? Is it NCAA? Is it compliance?
It's NCAA. Which I think you knew the answer to that question before you asked it.
Ryan?
You've mentioned the need to fix some things in the punt game with the coverage and whatnot, but you've also used a different punter each game.
Yep.
What's the plan for this one, and what are some of the changes beyond that can be made to fix things?
Well, I don't think I'm going to give you the game plan in here today, but we're going to play the guy that gives us the best chance to hit the ball with good timing and operation and cover it better. You know what I mean? And I think that part of it, when you give a punt return for a touchdown, and you can see, because Utah's looking at the same thing. You know what I mean? They're looking at the film also. So I think we've done a good job of addressing that all week, and I'm excited to see us play Saturday.
Jason?
Beyond just the execution of the offense, is this what you envisioned it to look like? Would you like to get more vertical? Just how would you assess in terms of play calling and all that, the offense so far?
Well, I think we can play better, you're right. And when you're coming off a game where you only score 7 points, right? Like it's not going to feel good. There's no way it can. And that's on me. That's what we've been spending every day and every night in here working on and trying to come up with the best way to move the football effectively. And so I think that some of those situations that we've just been in too many 3rd and longs, and when you get in those situations, it kind of limits what you can do. And so I'm optimistic that that's going to continue to improve as we go.
Following up on Justin's question about Rhino, even during training camp, it seemed like the whole first team offensive line wasn't together that much. How valuable have the last 2 weeks been in that regard in terms of chemistry, cohesion, the things that an offensive line needs to?
Yeah, I think that's critical. I think that's one of those hard things. Like when you get guys dinged up, whether it's in game or in training camp, someone else has to step in and answer. And, I think that part of it has been good for us the last couple of weeks of just being able to practice together with some continuity there. But it's always, every football season is like that. It's like everyone says it's a next man up mentality because it has to be. Like what choice do you have, right? We got to run 5 guys out there and they got to play together and do a good job of giving us a chance to either protect Noah or run the football effectively. And so, I'm hopeful that like this time has been good for that group being together.
David?
The proof will be on Saturday night, right?
Sorry.
To kind of maybe follow on that, when you looked at the holding penalties in the Kansas State game, were there any consistencies that you saw to what guys were doing that are correctable right away?
Yeah, I think one of those was on Wowo, who's a really good player, and he was out in space and he's blocking a guy that's a little bit smaller than him, and the guy made a move and he just got his hands outside the core, and those holding penalties are easy to see out there in space. And then with Rhino, that was just young player on a 6-year senior who's a good player, right? And so those are learning lessons for him in terms of his hand placement and his technique. And Coach Josh has been working tirelessly at that over the last couple of weeks to try and get that fixed.
I know you're always going to do things your own way, but looking at Utah and what they've done under Kyle Whittingham, is there anything that you could take away from their program and maybe apply to Arizona?
Well, I'm not sure Kyle's going to share those things with me. Like a lot of the things that I think you get from other head coaches is offline, and how they practice or how they handle whatever training camp or how they handle spring practice or the things they do, kind of big picture like team stuff. The things I've always admired about Coach Whittingham's teams is that they're always incredibly sound in every phase. They do a great job of playing team football, so offense, defense, special teams. And then they recruit to that, right? And then I think they're always the most physical team you play every year. I know I felt that way when I was in the Pac-12. I know it was a long time ago, and we played them once when we were in San Jose, but they're always one of the most physical teams that you play.
Jason?
Jacob Manu and Tay Brown have played pretty much every snap at linebacker. Is that sustainable in your opinion? Would you like to see another guy step up, or how do you kind of approach that?
That's a good question. I don't really think. I think if they're playing at a high level, then they get to keep playing. You know what I mean? I think that part of it is, both those guys are good players. Tay's young, but he's growing, and he's going to be a really good player for us. Sometimes when you're playing as a young player, we're talking about Rhino, we're talking about some of those other guys, right? There's going to be growing pains. There's going to be some tough moments out there. But really, for them and for our football team, just how do we respond to those tough moments and trying to help those young people grow up in the process so that they can make the plays when they need to.
Last question, Mike. What do you hope to see or maybe expect to see out of your team overall on Saturday night?
I think the biggest thing is that we know we're going into a hostile environment. I want to see us handle the moment and play clean football, and which is hard because against this team, they're a team that frustrates you because of how they play. Right, there's going to be a lost yardage play, and we just have to line up and play the next play. There's going to be whatever it is, right? It's football. Like no football, there's never been a perfect football game played, and I think that's something that we have to continue to like understand and grow from and play the next play. It doesn't matter what happened on the last play. You can't fix it. It's gone. So what are you doing right now? And so I'm optimistic that we'll play clean, good football. And that sounds simple, but I don't think we've done that in all 3 phases yet. And that's what we're striving to do.
All right, that's your time.
All right, that's it. Thanks, Brent.
No problem. Thank you all.